It's February 1st, 2023. AEW Dynamite is on the air and Jon Moxley is bleeding. But before we get into that show, let's talk about AEW doing house shows for the first time. Starting in March, they claim it's going to be select cities and select weekends or whatever. But they're going towards doing house shows. Interestingly enough, Jon Moxley spent almost a paragraph, maybe even a little bit more, in his book complaining about house shows at WWE. How much he hated them, how stupid they were, and how pointless they were. And now they followed him to AEW. Look, I'm not happy or upset about AEW doing house shows. I don't know what it means. Is it an attempt to expand the brand? I mean, maybe so. They do have a large enough roster that they might be able to pull out some house shows, but we're talking about when it comes to AEW, they have a difficult time selling out the shows that they actually have. And, somebody made a joke that NXT Vengeance Day actually sold more tickets than Dynamite this week. It's not comparable, of course, because they're not in the same city, not in the same building or whatever. So it's not really comparable, but it was one of those things that kind of floated around the internet while people was talking about AEW doing house shows. I don't think an AEW house show would be worth going to. Like, I'm already kind of triggered about house shows because I actually agree with Moxley. House shows, though they are a little bit more fun because they're less restrictive, people aren't really on your back as much. You don't have the time crunch of television. Agents and everybody else seem to be a little bit looser at the house shows. At the same time, though, house shows are 99% non-canon, meaning nothing that happens on a house show really makes it on TV half the time. Actually, more 99% of the time. Sometimes house shows used to be they are prepping for a big storyline that they're going to do in the future, or they're testing the waters of this feud or these two guys, seeing how they work together. But now house shows are just kind of like Seth Rollins versus Gunther for no reason. And you're kind of like, wow, are they going to do this match? And it's like, no, we just, want people to come to the house show. And like, wait a minute. Why would you do that? But, so the matches, they don't play into storylines really, but the bumps are real. The paychecks are real, but the bumps are real. So you go out there and you take hellacious bumps in house show matches. And most of the time, guys will say, oh, those were my most favorite matches. They were so much fun. The house show matches. Guys like Ric Flair would say that. Guys like Jake Roberts would say it. Steve Austin was talking about how he had better matches at house shows than he ever had on TV. That sort of thing. At the same time, man, if you just want to wrestle, I guess house shows are fine. If you just want to get your reps in, especially if you're a young talent, you just want to get reps in, house shows are fine. If you're a solid main event guy, house shows are a pain in the ass, which is usually why they're the first thing to go when you get to a certain level in your stardom. The first thing to go is house shows. Undertaker, Rock, now Brock, Roman, house shows, unless it's Madison Square Garden or a building of that size, or a special occasion. They're really not trying to do house shows. And there's a reason for that. So while AEW is promoting Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega and all these guys at these house shows, you have to think about it. If you're going to go, they're probably going to be in 6-man tags or tag team matches or something like that, if they even show up at all. And it's probably going to be, if it's possible to have a lower level Dynamite that doesn't just look like an AEW dark card, which, for Christ's sake, that's probably what it's going to be. But it's interesting that they decided to run house shows. Very interesting. All right, let's get into this dumb show. Jon Moxley defeats Hangman Page. Moxley bled, because of course he did. There's little the man likes to do more than to blade himself. Of course, this blading was caught on television right in front of the camera. It's so obvious that I just decided to use it as a thumbnail. Who cares, really? You can't see the blade, but you know what he's doing. Come on, you know what he's doing. I looked away for a moment. I saw the blade. I was like, okay, here we go again. Same old shit, dog, just a different day. And that's, he bleeding all over the place again. That's what he does. The the match was the battle of clotheslines. See who can knock each other out with a clothesline. So they actually nailed some clotheslines in here that was pretty decent. They did something that was this teeter-totter thing they were doing on the ring apron where Moxley kept trying to pick him up for a power driver. It was like, whoa. And then Hangman Page tried to pick him up for the dead eye. Whoa. And it was just going back and forth. And I was like, oh my God. This seems exhausting. And just never ended. Then Hangman Page powerbombed Moxley through a table. There was no reason for that table to be there. But we know why it was there. So they can get powerbombed through the table. I mean, goddamn. Why else would you just have like a random table sitting at ringside? Like AEW just puts things in weird places. Like, is that? I don't think that's where the timekeeper is. It's just a table there. In any event, Hangman Page hit the Tombstone Pile Driver. Yes, that Tombstone Pile Driver, plus a buckshot lariat, and Moxley still kicked out. Moxley ends up winning by countering his own finishing hold, which is the Bulldog choke into a roll-up. So after the I'm going to knock you out, no, I'm going to knock you out, no, I'm going to knock you the fuck out, they decided, I'm just going to finish this thing with a roll-up. Okay. Go for it. So they both were still full of energy after the match. You know, Moxley won and then started doing snow angels to mock Hangman Page. Hangman Page started doing push-ups to mock John Moxley. They were shoving each other, giving each other the middle finger. The Blackpool Combat Club decided to break up the shoving match. But Claudio trying to demand that Hangman Page back away. And I was, the Rhinestone Cowboy. The whole time that this match was going on, I was trying to find reasons to like this guy. I just found more reasons to not like him. The Rhinestone Cowboy gimmick, I don't get it. He just doesn't come across like a tough guy. He doesn't come across like a guy in a fight either. Moxley at least comes across like a guy who is in a fight. Or at least he feels like he's in a fight. Hangman Page feels like he's in a goddamn play. I don't know, man. I don't like that guy. Starting to think, I really don't like him. I wanted to like him, but I can't. It is what it is, though. And this goddamn match was 25 son of a bitchin' minutes. 25 minutes. You would think this was the main event of a pay-per-view. 25 minutes. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. Vignette for Samoa Joe and Darby Allin, in which Darby Allin would grant Samoa Joe a rematch on the condition that it is no holds barred, and that he agrees that there will be no rematch. So if Samoa Joe wins, Darby Allin doesn't want a rematch. If Darby Allin wins, Samoa Joe doesn't get a rematch. That was fine. That was okay. Samoa Joe, of course, with his usual young champion threats. That's going to take us to the main event. So Samoa Joe versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship, no holds barred. So Darby Allin comes to the ring, and he's wearing a thumbtack-studded hoodie, to which he just kind of used it to stinger splash onto Samoa Joe. And I didn't really get why Joe was selling it the way he was until I really thought about the jacket is covered in thumbtacks. It took forever for me to get there, but, it's real creative. It's creative as hell, I guess. He used the same jacket to utilize a coffin drop, the same coffin drop that defeated Samoa Joe before. Somehow he was able to kick out of it, even though it was covered in thumbtacks this time. See, continuity, kids. That's how you write stories. Darby Allin then took what seemed like 10 minutes cutting up the ring apron. I'm talking just like outside the ring, meticulously cutting this ropes. And he's just cutting ropes. He's trying to portray some kind of sense of urgency as he's doing it, but it's taking him forever to saw through these ropes. And I'm just thinking the entire time he's cutting these ropes, like, where is Samoa Joe? Where is he? Why do you have so much time to do this? You're in the middle of a fight. Just do he obviously can't do a Brock Lesnar and just rip the mat up, which, or you could have pre-prepared this whole thing and then just rip the mat up to make yourself look stronger than you really are. Or could have had Samoa Joe rip the mat up if it needed to be ripped up. So the point of him tearing up the ring canvas was so that he can remove the thin mats from underneath so they get to the exposed wood. And just like Wile E. Coyote, Darby Allin, your conquering babyface who should not be Wile E. Coyote, falls into his own trap, catches a muscle buster from the second rope, and is pinned by Samoa Joe. So, in typical stories, your bad guy will set up a situation in which it will blow up in his face. The Wile E. Coyote principle. You know, the bad guy, his plots, his schemes shall not work. You know, it comes from the Bible. You know, what is no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So in other words, no schemes or anything like that formed against me shall prosper. And so Darby Allin decided he was going to scheme against Samoa Joe with the thumbtack hoodie. That didn't work. Then he tried to scheme against Samoa Joe by cutting up the ring canvas, and then that didn't work. So he looks ineffective and stupid, which is weird because this is actually a environment where he should actually look stronger because he can utilize whatever he wants. We talking about this guy, same guy, who again powered out of Samoa Joe's coquina clutch just what was it, 4 weeks ago, and now he's Wile E. Coyote. His Acme TNT blowing up in his face. Weird, very weird. It is what it is. Samoa Joe is better than Darby Allin, even at his advanced age. So, okay. After Samoa Joe wins, like immediately after he wins, Wardlow's theme song plays and he marches to the ring. He starts beating up on Samoa Joe. Then he's beating up on security guys. And we go off the air as Wardlow is about to awesome bomb. Yes, word to Mike, awesome. He's about to throw one of these security guys over the top rope. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to see this. But it was cut off, like, immediately. I was like, oh, well, something that might have actually been interesting. I guess it's only for the home audience. So Wardlow is back. He has returned. He has a fresh haircut. And he's also shaved. He looks, I like the haircut. The haircut, fine. He looks normal. I wasn't really a big fan of the ponytail. I just didn't think it fit his persona. It looked kind of weird, especially since it was like a man bun on the top of his head. Not typically what you would, associate with being a badass. But now he looks a little bit like Luther Reigns, a distant cousin of Roman Reigns. So like way distant, like on the mom's side. That's not real, by the way. I don't want to. I'm pushing misinformation. So Luther Reigns is in no way is in no way related to Roman Reigns. Anyway, he looks a lot like knockoff Dave Bautista now. He's wearing a suit jacket and all that kind of stuff. Look, he looked nice. He got his look together. I'm good with that. I wish he hadn't shaved, like the goatee thing. But at least he got rid of the man bun. The man bun was getting made fun of, so he ditched it. All right. So now he looks kind of generic, but at least he also doesn't look soft with the man bun and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good. So it's going to be up to Tony Khan's booking, which is going to be like, my auntie couldn't cook. Let's talk about that for a moment. See, I grew up with all of my cousins. My cousins some of them are closer in age than others. My cousin that is like 1 year older than me, right? His mama can't cook. His mama sucks at cooking. I mean, his mama really underboiled a hot dog at one point during my childhood. It was actually kind of traumatic. If it wasn't for Street Fighter, I wouldn't have made it through that weekend. So I'm saying to myself, Tony Khan as a booker is like my auntie as a chef. He's going to undercook this thing. I'm pretty sure he will. Now, most people, when they can't cook, they overcook things. You got to be a special kind of retard to undercook things. I mean, when you go to when you watch cooking shows like Chopped or something, I love Chopped. Like when you watch something like that, you see that there's a special kind of disgust in their face when things are undercooked, and especially like eggs, So imagine going your entire weekend with undercooked hamburgers, undercooked hot dogs. You have to finish the hamburger in a microwave or something like that in order to get it to something that's not mush. Bloody mush. That's what I had to deal with as a kid. Dinner eating raw hamburger. His goddamn auntie can't cook. It's the shits. I try to stay far away from her as possible. She come in the front door, I go out the back door. It was that bad. I had to get the hell out of there. All right, that was like when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that. It was the shits. And I'm watching Dynamite, and I just say to myself, I just drifted towards food numerous times. I'm going to talk about food again in a minute. So it's like that. Wardlow was an undercooked hot dog, an undercooked hamburger, an undercooked side of beef. Now, some people like that kind of thing. I think that he has incredible potential, but you have to attack that thing with some fervor, and you have to know what you're doing. It seemed like they might have had an idea of what to do when he was doing the Powerbomb Symphony and all that kind of stuff. And then out of nowhere, he got thrown in the empty field and it was over. It was just, hey, here's match after match with nobody. Here's no feud. Oh, yeah, you're losing to Darby Allin. Not Darby Allin. You're losing to Samoa Joe. And then he's going to cut your hair. You're going to disappear for 2 months. And he's going to get destroyed by Darby Allin, who's going to power out of his finish, hit him with 2 finishes of his own and pin him. Wow. That's really going to make Wardlow look strong when he comes back and as the conquering hero, huh? Yeah. Again, undercooking the story. Why? Why have Darby Allin pin Samoa Joe? Why have anybody beat Samoa Joe before Wardlow gets to him? The whole point is that Joe should have been on a rampage. If you were even going to have Wardlow lose to Samoa Joe, he should have been on a rampage. That's not what he does. I don't get it. Tony Khan, I don't understand you. I don't get it. Let's go back to the beginning of the show. Jamie Hayter is standing there with the bunny. I instantaneously just rolled my eyes because I know where this is going. The bunny felt that Jamie Hayter was being outshined by Emi Sakura. And it took me a moment to even remember that match even occurred. It occurred on Rampage, which means it basically didn't happen at all. Then the bunny decided she was going to challenge Jamie Hayter for a match. Jamie Hayter didn't accept it because, of course, why would she be afraid of the bunny? And then immediately, I think it was Renee or some other microphone holder was like, oh my God, we're getting something on our monitors. And we go to the back, and Saraya is back there with Toni Storm. And Saraya is such a porcelain doll that she can't even really do attack. She can't even be trusted to attack anybody. So Toni Storm is doing all the attacking. And she's beating up Britt Baker. And Jamie Hayter doesn't know how to sell being worried for her friend. So she actually is kind of like, oh. And then she runs off. And I'm just kind of like, what? Okay. If you say so. I guess she'll be alive when you get there. So apparently she made it because Britt Baker was still alive. So when she gets to the back, we get a med check on Britt Baker. And Britt Baker is like, oh, that's what they want to do? That's fine. Because we can play dirty too. And then Ruby Soho barges into this medical update on Britt Baker to ask if Britt Baker is okay. To which Britt Baker says, those are your girls. And Ruby's like, Like she just fought Toni Storm last week. Literally just got into a fight with this girl. And Britt Baker's like, you've known them much longer than you've known us. And now all of a sudden you're showing up here. And I'm like, who's the babyface here again? Like, who's the babyface? What is going on here? If Britt Baker is the babyface, she should have, expressed surprise that Ruby Soho would care, not poor attitude. So now when Ruby turns on Britt Baker, you're going to be like, yeah, Britt Baker was a bitch to Ruby Soho. Of course she beat her up. Instead of saying, she did something to kind of gain Britt Baker's trust and then she betrayed it, which is heel stuff and would signify a heel turn. Now it's going to be like, Ruby was trying to be friends. And then she got rejected for no reason other than she worked in WWE for a little while. This is dumb. And once again, it's Britt Baker going out there writing her own story. Who is the fucking director of this? Who is the author? Who is the writer of this? You have to understand there are baby faces and then there are heels. I understand people want to have these crazy mixed up storylines where sometimes you're the baby face, sometimes I'm the heel, and it changes throughout the damn show where I get beat up by two heels like a baby face, but at the same time when a baby face approaches me, I reject them and reject their help and reject their sympathy and then cast aspersions onto them for no apparent fucking reason like I'm a goddamn heel. See, that's how it's going to work. That adds later to my story. Like, no, it makes you bipolar. How am I supposed to feel about you at this point? I don't even feel sympathy when I know that Ruby Soho is about to cave your fucking head in at one point. You deserve it. What is happening? Please make this make sense. All she had to do was say, "I'm fine, Ruby, thanks." Like I didn't think you cared, you know? Like I was impressed with your match with Tony last week. I thought you would have been on their side. And then Tony could have, Ruby could have been like, "No, just because we worked in the same place, that doesn't mean that I'm on their side. I'm my own person. I have my own thoughts and feelings and yada, 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 And that could have been that. But it's now Britt Baker is deciding who's the babyface and who's the heels are. Because she's the one who changed the narrative the first time. When she flipped on Saraya and turned her heel, essentially. Now she's doing the same damn thing to Ruby Soho. What is going on here? Please, somebody. And this is a pre-tape. This ain't live. It's a pre-tape. Reshoot this, please. Shoot it better. And when she gets jumped backstage, how about some battle damage? Why is her makeup perfect? Why is her hair perfect? That's a WWE thing too, but it's just really stood out here. Like, shouldn't your hair be all kind of messy? Maybe you should have like a cut or something. Like she was slamming her head against like boxes and shit. This is the same show where, guys are bleeding all over the place. And not saying she needed to bleed, but we need to see like some physical, some things out of whack. Maybe her shirt is torn, clothes are torn. Wrestling really needs to focus on that kind of stuff. That's one of like the beautiful things about anime. Like really what got me about Dragon Ball is you would see the battle damage. You would see torn shirts, hair, not so much hair, but torn shirts and stuff like that. You feel like they're really in a fight. They need to go back to doing that. Guys getting their, suit jackets ripped off and that kind of thing. Otherwise, what kind of fight were you in, really? Let's move on. I'm spending too much time talking about Britt Baker and her stupidity. The Acclaimed beat some job guys. Who cares? The Guns appeared after the match and then formally challenged the Acclaimed for the tag team championships. The Acclaimed then said they wanted to ask the crowd. The crowd said no, the Guns shouldn't get a tag team title match. So then the Acclaimed said no. Again, babyface is backing down from a challenge, okay? Billy Gunn is tired of them arguing, so he leaves. One of the Guns, I don't know their names, he yelled at Billy as Billy was walking away for him to turn his back on them like he did their entire childhood. Billy stopped for a moment, let that sink in, figured he was going to ignore it, turn around, leave. And then he said, "Yeah, go drown your sorrows in a pill bottle." So Billy's like, you know what, that's it. He comes back. He's going to give this youngin' what for. He's going to give him a piece of his mind. He says, "Hey, you want to get your big boy pants on?" And his mic cut off. And then, just like Jon Moxley, as soon as he got a working microphone, he just started the promo over. Same verbiage. You got to put your big boy pants on. What is up with their audio? 4 years in, AEW still has audio problems. I don't get it. Anyway, Billy Gunn ends up accepting the challenge on behalf of the Acclaimed. And the Acclaimed are standing there like, can he do that? Like, can't he just accept challenges on our behalf? Like, apparently he can. Apparently he can. And then you didn't say he couldn't, so there that go. Now what are you going to do? All right. Whatever. Jungle Boy wants to be a singles champion. Hooray for him. Konosuke Takeshita defeated Brian Cage via running knee strike. And you know what I did? This match bored me to death. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I went to the refrigerator, right? And I had put some fun-sized Twix in the freezer. And I pulled the fun-sized Twix out of the freezer, and I sat there and I was enjoying the fuck out of that. You can't get me, it's Brian Cage. Fuck that. I'm not watching Brian Cage, all right? So I'm sitting here eating these frozen Twix, and I'm like, I ain't supposed to be eating Twix, you know? But goddamn, frozen Twix ruled, bro. It was the fun size joints. It wasn't like a king size or nothing like that. It was like really small Twix. I ate 2 of them, so it's probably like 2 of them was probably like 1 regular size Twix bar. Not bad, man. Frozen Twix. Try it out. Trust me, it's not bad. You know, what is bad is Brian Cage. He's not good. He ain't good. Takeshita, I want nothing but the best for him. I hope God sprinkles blessings all over that young man. But he did him a disservice, you know, making sure that Brian Cage actually made it to this match. If God cared about Takeshita, Brian Cage would have sprained his knee putting his boot on or something like that, and this match would have had to get canceled. Next, Jericho Appreciation Society backstage talking about Ricky Starks. The be all end all of this is we've somehow fallen into this thing where Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara came up with the Garcia gauntlet, in which Ricky Starks, in order to get a rematch against Chris Jericho, he lost a tag team match. And he didn't even lose. Action Andretti lost. But when he wrestled Chris Jericho one-on-one, he won. He beat Chris Jericho. So, okay. All right. Let's continue through this. I'm putting too much thought. I'm putting more thought into this than they did. He has now got to beat every member, except Jake Hager, of the Jericho Appreciation Society. He had to beat Skinny 2.0, Fat 2.0. Then either Garcia or Guevara. It's probably going to be Garcia. And if he beats all 3 of them, then he gets a match with Chris Jericho. And I'm like, Jericho is stealing MJF's ideas now. This also doesn't make any sense, considering Jericho has not beaten Ricky Starks in a singles match. It actually went the other way. But why would Ricky Starks care about losing a tag team match that he didn't even get beat in to this degree? Jericho's not a champion. Jericho didn't do something horrible to Ricky Starks, like, you know, steal his chain or, you know, run over him with a car or something like that. There's no reason Ricky Starks will have to go through 4 or 5 people to get to Jericho. You know, usually a gauntlet with some kind of treasure at the end, either a championship match, or you want to get your hands on somebody who really fucked you over. Like those old storylines where you would have to beat the manager's guide and you get 5 minutes with the manager. The idea is that the guy is just a proxy. You're really kind of feuding with the manager. So you have to fight the guy who's the real wrestler. But if you beat him, and when you beat him, you get your hands on the manager, who is what you really wanted, because the manager is the one who hits you with the tennis racket or, bangs you in the head with the urn or whatever the hell, right? In this situation, Jericho, I don't think he did anything to Ricky Starks other than be annoying to make Ricky Starks want to kill him to this degree. It's not worth fighting 3 other guys. I would decline that challenge. If it was a title match or something like that, sure. But just to fight Chris Jericho in a match where I've already beaten Chris Jericho, I wouldn't be too concerned about this. It's goofy. I'm telling you, it's goofy. Speaking of goofy, AEW served up a 6-stack of goofy. Oh my God, the Elite. Kenny Omega is back in the country. Apparently he was having visa issues. I guess he still lives in Canada. All right. Anyway, the Elite were on a basketball court, which looks weird because none of them look like they can hoop. which is almost the first thing a black man says when they see anybody holding the basketball. You can't hoop. Anyway, the Elite are out there, and they challenge Top Flight plus AR Fox to a trios title match because Top Flight defeated the Young Bucks. It's a stretch, but I'll take it. All right, that's fine. Then they couldn't let well enough alone. They just couldn't leave it alone because at their private YMCA or gym or wherever they are, Stokely Hathaway just happens to be there with Ethan Page, Matt Hardy, and the other guy from Private Party. So Ethan Page is upset that the Elite didn't have planned to wrestle this week. They're planning to take the week off. And so he says, my boys, they don't get the week off. So he challenged the Elite to a 6-man tag. Of course, it's for Rampage. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to not watch this. I have anything to do on a Friday night. Even if it's just eating more frozen Twix, I will refuse to do anything except watch Rampage. I will not watch this show. Anyway, the Elite agreed. To which the weird guy from Private Party, not the super athletic one, this one, the brown skinned one, he walks over to Kenny Omega, says something in his ear, and then moans in his ear. I legit got up and walked away from the screen. I was like, I don't understand it. I don't understand this. If this is high IQ pro wrestling, I don't get it. Why was he moaning in that man's ear? Kenny Omega is the sissy slap fight guy. All right. That is the Golden Lovers guy. And you, fully grown man, over the age of 22, I think he's like 23 or 24 or something like that. He was like about that age when this shit started. He's probably about 25 now. Just goes like a phone sex worker in this guy's ear. And I'm just stunned that made air. I'm stunned. And I'm stunned at everybody's reaction to this, as they think it was comedy. And then all the people on Twitter thought it was comedy too. And I'm looking like, all of these people are fucking freaks. They're not just dorks. They're perverts and freaks. Why would you moan in another man's ear? Where is this going to go? Is this supposed to be his thing? Like good night, goodbye, bang is going to be a thing? Like what you gonna do is a thing? Like, because Stone Cold said so is a thing. If you smell that's a thing. This guy apparently moaning in people's ear is a thing that he just does. And for some reason, this ain't the first time. When somebody went on, I don't know who it was. I don't pretend to know these things. They posted videos of him doing it to other people. And somehow, this has gone under the radar, seemingly for either several days or several weeks. This guy has been moaning in other people's ears in very provocative and weird ways. It takes me back to Loveline. I'm like, why is this guy all of a sudden a phone sex worker? Wasn't there a Spike Lee movie about a phone sex worker? What is it, Girl 69 or something like that? I don't get Ugh. Everybody got their fetishes, dog. You would think Tony Khan would say, please don't do that on my television show that I pay millions of dollars for. Please don't do that. But I don't know, man. This is like a living, breathing Barbie's playhouse to that fucking guy, man. You don't care what's wrong on this show. I certainly would not want the moaning. Can we pass on that? Can we Again, reshoot this. This is a pre-tape. Reshoot this. Moving on. Timothy Thatcher comes out there looking like, a guy who stepped out of prison. He looks like a tough guy. Like, he's a beef jerky eating, deer hunting motherfucker, And him and Danielson have a really gritty match. It's exactly what you would expect between these two guys. MJF tried to interfere. He got, knocked down by Takeshita. Him and Takeshita fought off. Thatcher targeting the arm and the shoulder of Danielson, even though he did a really good job at it. Danielson caught him with the Busai Kuni and won the match. Solid. This is exactly what I thought it was going to be. Thatcher is really good at the wrestling thing. Hopefully he gets to stick around, just for nothing, but just when I need my fix for work rate, Timothy Thatcher is really good. Okay, so after this, it was announced that, well, for starters, MJF and Takeshita continue brawling all the way backstage. And Renee Paquette is back there with a microphone. And she says, next week, it's going to be Konosuke Takeshita versus MJF in a title eliminator thing. I'm like, okay. Okay, fine. Then, literally like 5 minutes later, MJF barges in onto a Roosh meeting. He's wearing different clothes. All right, so he changed clothes. I saw a lot of people saying that stuff, like, why is he wearing different clothes now? I'm like, shit, guy's rich. He probably just changed clothes. He got to a fight in these clothes. They probably got torn or something like that. He don't walk around shabby like everybody else. He wouldn't change clothes. I think enough time to put on a different pair of pants had occurred, right? But they were just basically saying this was a pre-tape, which of course it was. So he walks into the Rush's locker room with a giant briefcase full of money. He says, this giant briefcase full of money is free. You don't have to do anything for this one. But I got 5 more with your name on them if you beat Bryan Danielson and cripple him. And he's talking to Rush's interpreter. And Rush gives him a big, long speech, to which the interpreter just says, we got a deal. And MJF is like, he said a lot to just say we have a deal, which it was funny. I thought that was pretty sweet. But as soon as this scene was over, I sat there and I said, don't Rush understand English? Like, I'm pretty sure people talk in English to him literally all the time. And his English is not very good, but he often talks back in English. So he understands enough English to know what's going on here. We didn't really need the interpreter thing. It was just kind of like for MJF to make jokes with, which is fine, People exist for some reason or another. So that guy existed so MJF can make a joke. It is what it is. I have no problem with that. All right, Swerve wants to fight Brian Pillman, but his promo was mostly about Dustin Rhodes. I don't know. Where's Keith Lee? A guy on Twitter said, post the name of a guy who works in AEW that you forgot. So that's the challenge for the week. It's going to be our AEW Milk Box guy. Our AEW Milk Box Wrestler of the Week. Where did he go? Mercedes Martinez was his choice. Tony Nese was mine. Where did these people go? At least Mercedes Martinez popped up to drop the belt to Athena. Tony Nese, just a name on a sheet of paper, apparently. Does he have a physical form? No. Brian Pillman, yeah, he's still there. Brian Pillman Jr., he's still there. He's going to be wrestling Swerve on Rampage. That is actually something I do want to see. I like both of those guys, but I do not want to watch Rampage. I do not. So, is it watch guys that I like? Watch Rampage. Watch guys that I like. Watch Rampage. I can't bring myself to watch Rampage, even to watch guys that I like. It'll have to be bigger stars than Swerve and Brian Pillman. And then the very obvious nature of the finish is, who cares? But just put on record, I like Brian Pillman, I like Swerve. All right, so TBS Championship, Red Velvet was defeated by Jade Cargill, of course. Red Velvet was never going to defeat Jade Cargill, ever. Some guy was acting like this was some kind of epic rivalry. Oh, Red Velvet had Jade Cargill's first match, and occasionally, like once or twice a year, these two have a singles match, and Jade has won them all. But this is quite the storied rivalry for AEW. It's like, it's not a rivalry if one person always fucking wins and the matches don't get any better. Of course, Jade Cargill was going to win. You could have covered her in bricks. She was still going to win. Jade Cargill could have literally sprained her knee, putting her boots on, and she was still going to win this match. Red Velvet is, come on. I mean, all of this is smoke and mirrors. Jade Cargill is 50-0 and hasn't beaten literally anybody of substance. It's been 2 years since she's beaten anybody of substance. After every win, they start going, win with Jade Cargill? How can anybody stop her? She's unstoppable. And each time it's kind of a setup for somebody's music to play or something like that. And it never happens. It never occurs. And it's just the same thing over and over again. Then Jade Cargill goes out there. She's a heel, by the way. She grabs her beautiful little daughter, picks her up in her arms, starts kissing her all on the cheek, and she's celebrating with the baby. And I'm like, you're not going to get anybody to boo a kid. You know? We're supposed to be unhappy that Jade Cargill won this match. At least that's what heels are supposed to do. It's supposed to make you unhappy. I'm not about to boo a kid for no reason. Alright? Especially since the kid is just happy her mommy won. You know, I'm not going to blame the kid for that. I have basic common sense. But we need to do something. Because this Jade Cargill thing is stale. The Baddies was a good potential thing. But they burned through that one like firewood. It's gone now. She's beaten up 2 out of the 3 of them already. You know, she had 3 baddies. The one she didn't even want, which was Layla Gray. I think that's the only one that's still around. You know, Kiera Hogan was the first one, and then was like the first one kicked out. Then Red Velvet came. We didn't know how Red Velvet and Jade Cargill became friends in the first place. After being enemies for 3 years, they became best friends for a couple of weeks, and then they were enemies again. I'm like, okay. Now Jade's back to being by herself, and her storyline with Red Velvet is over. Her storyline with Kiera Hogan is over. Okay. Now what? You know, like, it's been that is the story of Jade Cargill. It's like, okay, now what? You've done this great thing. Now what? She's gotten to 50 wins. Now what? 51? When are we going to start having her work storylines? When is she going to start getting in the ring with people who could potentially beat her? You know, higher level opponents. You know, that's the thing about having a great run, is that maybe you start out with slower, smaller opponents, or small opponents pop in here and there, but you're really having big rivalries. You're having big runs against tough opponents, tough contenders. This is not what Jade Cargill is beating people she's already beaten before, or people who have no chance of beating her, even if you have been following the product. You know, beating Madison Rayne? What is that supposed to do for Jade Cargill's career? Who the fuck is Madison Rayne? Oh, she was a Knockouts champion multiple times. Something like that. 10 years ago? I think Knockouts champion 10 years ago? Oh, for fuck's sake. You might as well trot out fucking Caitlyn or something like that. You know, we got to do something. There needs to be somebody that's got to beat Jade Cargill, all right? Or if not beat her, then challenge her. That's where the drama is. That's where the money is. The money isn't in just Jade existing. I know that some people seem to think that's the case, but she's not on that level yet. She's not on the level where she could just show up, put her name in lights, and she's going to draw you some money. You have to get people to buy into what she's doing, show people that she's the real deal by putting her in there with legit tough contenders. People who, like, she's not just picking them up and throwing them around or whatever. You got to be able to add drama to it. They've turned her into female Goldberg. And it's very unfortunate because now it's like, what happens when she loses? And that's going to be the top question. Like, what happens when Jade finally loses? What's going to be her next level? What's going to be her next step? It's going to be like Wardlow. where the moment she loses, she's lost in the lurch. We don't know what to do anymore because now it's going to be about building that next person. You have to create a story. A story. It's ridiculous. I don't know. Tony Khan is a mess. It's a mess. His show is a mess. Okay. I hope y'all liked it anyway. 25 minutes. That first match. Rhinestone Cowboy versus Bloody Moxley. 25 minutes. God dang it. Why would you do that to me? Why? 15 minutes. It seemed like for Thatcher and Danielson. I'm not saying they should have went 25 minutes. I'm saying 15 minutes for something that was infinitely better. But Thatcher is not a AEW signed guy, so I get it. I expect them to fall below that 1 million viewers this week. So the Jay Briscoe tribute show was now the actual tribute show that was uploaded to the Ring of Honor Wrestling YouTube channel features his I think they call it a Fight Without Honor with Adam Cole. That was really fun. A lot of the Jay Briscoe matches on there, that was really fun. A lot of the stuff they taped specifically for that show, basura. All right, it's not good. It's just, Briscoe's friends going over, which is typical of a tribute show. But not a big fan of that. But the AEW show that was main evented by Mark Briscoe got just slightly over 1 million viewers. But it got 1 million viewers. And I was very impressed. And I'm glad that show, if any show, was the one that did it. Because it shows that a lot of people legitimately cared about Jay Briscoe and wanted to see Mark. And see Mark really go out there and compete for his brother. That was tremendous. That was good. I'm glad that drew at least. The context of it is the absolute worst. Because ain't nobody going to die every week. So you can't get too excited. But at least people showed up to show support on this one. So that was good. If you watched the 3-hour Jay Briscoe ROH tribute show, what did you think of that? What did you think of this Dynamite? I'll talk to you guys later. Do all the YouTube things. You guys know what to do. I'll leave it to you. Peace out.